You know, when people from the media ask questions for an issue that is sensitive, they do not always expect an answer. The decent ones among them usually respect the prerogative of the person they are asking whether to answer or not to answer. Even silence is already an answer. In some instances, silence can be even more eloquent. It is okay to say, "I do not know," or answer with, "Oh, interesting question. Can you give me some time to think about it?" Or if they want an interview, it need not be an ambushed one. You can say, "Perhaps you can send me the questions in advance by email." Or you can even add, "I hope you do not mind that I answer only the questions that I feel I am in a position to answer." They are usually grateful enough that you replied and took them seriously. Like I said, even a no reply is a reply. And a no comment answer can be a devastating reply. But you will always encounter people, like the ones Jesus is dealing with in today's gospel, who are identified as Pharisees and Herodians. People who are not asking because they want to be clarified about the issue. People whose motive is not all that pure or sincere. People whose goal is to catch him like a fish. You know, in Tagalog we say, nahuhuli ang isda sa bibig. They catch a fish by its mouth, by trying to obtain a reply that they could use against him. Well, Jesus was a holy man, but that does not mean he was naive. Remember, once he warned his disciples, "You must be innocent as doves, but clever as serpents," he said. There were instances when Jesus responded to a question with silence, like he did with Herod Antipas. In other instances, he took time to gather his thoughts before giving an answer. Like, remember that time when he wrote the ground first before answering the question of the Pharisees on what to do with the woman they had caught in the act of adultery? There were also times when instead of answering directly, he answered indirectly by using a parable. In short, Jesus knew how to use his discernment. Discernment, by the way, is one of the important disciplines that I learned in my education and formation under the Jesuits of San Jose Seminary. I know that sometimes in English, when people are unable to catch you by your mouth, they refer to you as Jesuitic, a term which is negative, pejorative in the English vocabulary. It means negatively clever, cunning, crafty, or wily. In Tagalog, the word is tuso. And you would not want to be called tuso. I am inclined to believe that the pejorative reference to the Jesuits must have a historical background to it. You see, there was a point in history when they wielded so much influence in society, and they were seen as a threat by some people in authority. I remember a line said by a governor in a movie about Jesuits. He said, "You watch out for them because they can pull the rug under your feet without you realizing it." Well, they were not called companions of Jesus for nothing. I'd say it must be something they learned well from their Lord and Master. I know of a mother who was amused to note the effect of Jesuit education on her son, who is a college sophomore. Apparently, when she asks him a difficult question, he sometimes answers with, "It depends." Or at other times, he would answer with, "Yes and no." And he would proceed to explain why it could be one or the other. Or sometimes he would answer the question with, is there a proper context to that question? Or may I know where the question is coming from? Well, in today's gospel, Jesus is being asked a sensitive question. Should we or should we not pay taxes to the Roman government? Very political question. And he immediately detects malice in the person who is asking, who prefaces his question with a string of flatteries like, "Teacher, we know that you are an honest man. You are not concerned about anyone's opinion. You don't regard a person's status but teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. In short, you call a spade a spade." Well, I think Jesus is intelligent enough to distinguish between a sincere praise and a flattery. I imagine him saying in his mind, "Oh, come on, don't pull my leg. I wasn't born yesterday." Of course, he did not say it. You know, it is people with a hungry ego who fall easily for flattery. And take note, he does not answer them with a yes or no. He does not even answer immediately. Instead, he asks for a coin and tells them to identify the face on the coin. Very clever. It gives him time to formulate his answer. If he said yes, they should pay taxes to the Roman government, it meant that he was pro-Roman, and he could get into trouble with the revolutionaries and the nationalists. If he said no, he would also get into trouble with the Roman authorities and be accused of subversion. So how does Jesus answer? He says, "Give to the Roman emperor what you owe to the Roman emperor, and give to God what you owe to God." Well, the funny thing is it sounded reasonable enough to the Romans. In fact, up to now, even legislators are using this as a basis for the so-called constitutional doctrine of separation of church and state. And as a Bible professor, I am amused because the radical implication of the answer of Jesus is not lost on his Jewish audience. If they are asked the question, "What do you owe God?" Of course, they have to say everything. And if they owe everything to God, then what do they owe the Roman government? Nothing. But Jesus gets away without even saying it explicitly. It takes time for them to digest what he had said. And he has already left them by the time they realize what he really meant. You see, Jesus was not stupid. He did not give in too easily to manipulation. He had a way of exposing the malice of his interlocutors. Simeon was right in the Gospel of Luke, in his prophecy, when he said to Mary at the presentation of the child Jesus in the temple. Remember what he said, "This child is destined for the fall and the rise of many people in Israel. He will be a sign that will be contradicted, and you yourself a sword will pierce, so that the thoughts of many hearts will be laid bare." Because some people hide their thoughts in their hearts, and it is important that these are laid bare. Brothers and sisters, we have just celebrated Pentecost. The good news is, if you have received the Holy Spirit, you have the necessary gift to be able to answer people who plant questions like booby traps or lay them before you like stumbling blocks on your path. But if you see where you are being led, how could you allow yourself to trip and fall? Well, that depends on whether or not you have developed spiritual intelligence through a constant discipline of prayer and discernment.